Today we'll be talking about micronutrients in energy and amino acid metabolism. For centuries, beriberi, pellagra, goiter, and other micronutrient deficiency diseases and conditions caused illness and fatigue, enormous suffering and death. It wasn't until the early 20th century that scientists discovered that these diseases were caused by a lack of certain vitamins and minerals. All B vitamins form coenzymes, which are small organic molecules that are a type of cofactor. Cofactors combine with inactive enzymes, which are called apoenzymes, to form active enzymes called holoenzymes. These active enzymes are able to catalyze specific reactions. This picture shows the enzyme-coenzyme interaction. The B vitamins form coenzymes, which are a type of cofactor. Cofactors enable specific enzymes to function. The disease beriberi was known in Asian countries due to the population experiencing the effects of this disease. Asian countries use white rice as their main food, which lacks the nutrient-rich germ that is removed during processing. In the late 1800s, the new rice milling technology caused beriberi to become even more prominent and was a leading cause of death. The milling process removed the germ, bran, and most vitamins, including thiamin. Scientists did not link beriberi to a lack of thiamin until the 1900s, when it was discovered that a vital factor in rice germ cures the disease. The factor was vitamin B1 or thiamin. The symptoms of beriberi include impaired nervous system function and weakness. Thiamin is involved in the normal function of the nervous system. When thiamin is lacking, glucose metabolism is severely disrupted. Thiamin can be destroyed by prolonged exposure to heat, which can occur in the cooking process, or by alkaline solutions such as baking soda. If you are cooking fresh green vegetables and want to keep the bright green color, sometimes baking soda is added because it will retain that color. But it will also destroy the thiamin within those vegetables. Whenever the vitamin is destroyed by either of these processes, it can no longer function in the body. Thiamin is found in a wide variety of foods, but typically it is in very small amounts. Some rich food sources of thiamin are pork and pork products, sunflower seeds, legumes, whole and enriched grains and cereals, green peas, asparagus, organ meats, peanuts, and mushrooms. In the U.S., the major contributors of thiamin are bread and rolls, cereal, bakery products, pasta, pork, ham, bacon, and milk. Certain foods like fresh fish and shellfish have thiaminase enzymes, which destroy the vitamin and lowers their bioavailability. However, cooking these foods inactivates the enzymes. A deficiency of thiamin causes the disease beriberi, which causes a person to become very weak and impairs the nervous, muscular, gastrointestinal, and the cardiovascular systems. Dry beriberi affects the nervous and muscular systems. In wet beriberi, the neurological and cardiovascular systems are affected. The heart can become enlarged and breathing can become difficult. Like most water-soluble vitamins, thiamin is stored in small amounts, and some signs of beriberi may occur after only 14 days of a thiamin-free diet. Wernicke-Korsakoff Syndrome is found among heavy users of alcohol. These individuals have a three-pronged problem related to thiamin. The first is alcohol decreases thiamin absorption. Alcohol increases thiamin excretion in the urine, and those individuals typically intake very little thiamin from the diet. The symptoms are changes in vision, ataxia, which is the inability to coordinate muscle activity during voluntary movement or in coordination, apathy, confusion, hallucinations, memory loss, and coming up with a memory that is fabricated, but the person believes it to be true. High doses of thiamin are typically delivered to these individuals, and the symptoms like double vision or cross-eyed will go away. Riboflavin is also known as vitamin B2, and it is a component of two coenzymes that play a role in energy metabolism. We covered FAD and FADH in Chapter 9 regarding energy metabolism, and you learn that FAD is the oxidized form and FADH is the reduced form. There is also flavin mononucleotide, or FMN, that plays a role in energy metabolism. Riboflavin is critical for these processes and helps form other B vitamins and antioxidants. If we're looking at riboflavin in foods, 1/4 of riboflavin comes from milk products. The rest is from coffee, tea, and other non-alcoholic beverages. You can also find riboflavin in bread, rolls, ready-to-eat cereals, eggs, bakery products, meat. Liver, mushrooms, spinach, milk, and cottage cheese are all rich sources. A riboflavinosis is riboflavin deficiency. It affects the mouth, skin, and red blood cells. There's inflammation of the throat, mouth, and tongue, cracking of tissue around the corners of the mouth, and moist, red, scaly skin. This deficiency develops after 2 months of a riboflavin deficient diet. Niacin is also known as vitamin B3, and it is used to synthesize the niacin compounds NAD and NADP. These coenzymes are involved in over 200 reactions and cellular metabolism pathways, especially those involved in the production of ATP, and we covered niacin in Chapter 9 as well. Niacin can be obtained from food as the vitamin itself, as preformed niacin, or it can be synthesized from the essential amino acid tryptophan. Poultry, meat, and fish provide about 27% of preformed niacin in the U.S. Protein-rich foods are good sources of niacin because they contain tryptophan. Niacin is also very heat stable, so it will not be lost during the cooking process. To synthesize niacin from tryptophan, 60 milligrams of tryptophan is needed to make about 1 milligram of niacin. Deficiency of niacin causes the disease pellagra, which was the only vitamin deficiency to reach epidemic proportions in the United States. Pellagra has since been eradicated in the United States because of the enrichment of grains in protein-rich diets. Pellagra is identified by the 3 Ds: dermatitis, diarrhea, and dementia, followed by the 4th D, death, which can occur if the disease is not treated. The population at risk is those that consume a corn-based diet, alcoholics, and those individuals with heart nut disease. Pantothenic acid is important because it is a part of coenzyme A, also known as CoA. And you might recognize this because it is a part of acetyl-CoA. Without pantothenic acid, you wouldn't have the full acetyl-CoA that enters into the citric acid cycle and forms ATP, or energy for your body. The good news is that there is plenty of pantothenic acid in our food supply. Some good sources are meat, milk, vegetables, mushrooms, peanuts, egg yolk, yeast, broccoli, and soy milk. Unprocessed foods are better sources of pantothenic acid because milling, refining, freezing, heating, and canning can reduce the amount of pantothenic acid in foods. Pantothenic acid deficiency is rare, and it has only been observed when the deficiency was induced. Symptoms of pantothenic acid deficiency is headache, fatigue, impaired muscle coordination, and GI tract disturbances. Biotin functions as a coenzyme in reactions, such as carboxylation reactions, which add carbon dioxide to compounds when carbohydrates, protein, and fats are metabolized. Biotin changes pyruvate to oxaloacetate. Biotin also binds to the proteins that help DNA fold in the cell nucleus, and so it is thought to help maintain gene stability. Biotin is widely distributed in foods and is found as the free vitamin and also as bicitin, which is biotin bound to the amino acid lysine in proteins. Good sources are whole grains, egg yolks, nuts, and legumes. The biotin content of food has been determined only for a small number of foods, so the nutrient databases are incomplete regarding this vitamin. It also appears that the bacteria in the large intestine can synthesize biotin. Biotin deficiency is also very rare. It occurs in 1 in 60,000 infants and is a genetic defect. Symptoms are skin rash, hair loss, convulsions, low muscle tone, and impaired growth. The functions of chromium are not fully known, but it may enhance insulin action, promote glucose uptake, and normalize blood sugar levels. Chromium is widely distributed in foods, but nutrient databases do not have them. It is difficult to assess a deficiency for chromium except for those patients that are receiving parenteral nutrition. And so whenever they're receiving parenteral nutrition or TPN, the symptoms are weight loss, glucose intolerance, and nerve damage. A major role of vitamin B6 is in amino acid metabolism. Vitamin B6 is involved in numerous metabolic reactions and forming coenzymes, but the main coenzyme is peroxidyl phosphate, or PLP. PLP is involved in transferring the amino group from one amino acid to another, which allows the synthesis of non-essential amino acids. Vitamin B6 helps support normal immune function and regulation of gene expression. Vitamin B6 is stored in the muscle tissues of animals, so meat, fish, and poultry are the richest sources for B6. But whole grains are also good sources. Most fruits and vegetables are not a good source of vitamin B6, except for carrots, potatoes, spinach, bananas, and avocados. Like other vitamins, vitamin B6 is lost in heat and processing. It is rare to see a vitamin B6 deficiency in the United States. However, about 10% of the United States population has a low vitamin B6 concentration. Symptoms of a deficiency are dermatitis, microcytic hypochromic anemia, convulsions, depression, and confusion. People at risk for vitamin B6 deficiency are women, older adults, African Americans, smokers, users of oral contraceptives, alcoholics, those who are underweight, or those who consume poor diets. Folic acid is the synthetic form of the vitamin folate, which is found in supplements and fortified foods. Folate plays a role in DNA synthesis and amino acid metabolism. It's also involved in the formation of neurotransmitters such as serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine in the brain. So there is thought that supplemental folic acid could be useful in treating depression, and it also may help maintain normal blood pressure. The most bioavailability of folate in foods is found in liver, legumes, and leafy greens. Rich sources are nuts, avocados, and citrus fruits, and you can also find folate in flours, breads, rolls, cakes, cookies, pasta, pancakes, ready-to-eat cereals, and rice, as long as it starts off with a flour that is fortified with folate. And these flours that are fortified is the leading source of folate in our diet in the United States. Folate deficiency was once very common. However, we now have folic acid fortification, which has significantly decreased the amount of people with a deficiency. But it still does occur, and it results from low intake, malabsorption, and increased requirement for folate and the use of certain medications. There has also been a mandatory fortification of refined grains since 1998 to help stop the amount of neural tube defects in fetuses. Vitamin B12, also known as cobalamin, is only found in foods of animal origin, so that's meats, poultry, fish, and dairy products. And it contains a mineral as a part of its structure, cobalt. And vitamin B12 is required for enzymatic reactions. Vitamin B12 deficiency occurs as pernicious anemia, which is still fairly common today. It can also impair folate metabolism. There's also megaloblastic anemia, which is a severe B12 deficiency that occurs when body stores are gone or almost gone. And there's also neurological changes that produces nerve degeneration in some individuals, which can be fatal. Populations at risk for vitamin B12 deficiency or older adults, people with malabsorptive disorders, vegans and vegetarians. And vegans and vegetarians are at risk because they don't consume animal products, so meat, poultry, fish. They also don't consume dairy products. Treatment options would be supplements or fortified foods, monthly injections, a nasal gel, or a very high oral dose, which is absorbed by passive diffusion. The mineral manganese is an essential trace mineral, and it plays a role as a cofactor in metabolism, is also involved in nitrogen and carbohydrate metabolism, gluconeogenesis, collagen formation, and as the antioxidant defense network. You can find manganese in whole grain cereals, legumes, nuts, leafy greens, coffee, and tea. There has only been a few cases of a deficiency of manganese, so it's not well documented in humans, but those few cases have reported symptoms of impaired carbohydrate and lipid metabolism, nausea and vomiting, poor growth, skeletal abnormalities, and abnormal reproductive function. Toxicity of manganese occurs in children that have long-term parenteral nutrition, or in individuals that have inhalation of airborne, industrial, and automobile emissions. And there's severe neurological impairment and development of symptoms similar to Parkinson's disease, so muscle stiffness and tremors. Choline is also an essential nutrient. It does not have a coenzyme function, which is why it is not a vitamin. It is a precursor for a variety of compounds that enable cell membranes to form, and it promotes normal nervous system and liver function. Choline can be found as either free choline or as part of another compound. Foods of animal origin or good sources, so this would be meat, poultry, eggs, pork, and beef. And you can also find choline in grains, nuts, vegetables, and fruit. There has not been any deficiencies of choline reported. Iodine is present in our food as iodide. It is responsible for the synthesis of our thyroid hormones, and so these thyroid hormones are critical for energy metabolism. Natural iodine content of most foods is low. However, saltwater seafood, seaweed, iodized salt, and dairy are great sources of iodine. In the United States, iodized salt provides most of our iodine. Deficiency of iodine causes goiter, and this is when the thyroid gland becomes enlarged due to decreased levels of the thyroid hormones. It's a painless condition, but it can affect offspring if a woman is pregnant. And so this can cause cretinism, which is restricted brain development and growth, and it causes severe mental retardation, loss of hearing and speech abilities, short stature, and muscle spasticity in those offspring. Sulfur is provided primarily by the sulfur-containing amino acids. It is not required for amino acid metabolism, but it is a part of the structure of several compounds critical to metabolism. No deficiencies or toxicities have been reported.